Many thanks for staying with Friday Night. Recent incidents of food poisoning in Kenyan schools have affected scores of students countrywide and in some cases even led to death. Tonight, we have reported that the death toll in Western Kenya, that is in the cases of Mukumu girls, has risen to 4. And with me in studio now is Health Cabinet Secretary Susan Nakumicha to tell us more about what the current situation is and what is being done about it. Many thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much, Lillian. I'm happy to be here this evening.
Here, 627 patients across the country showing similar symptoms: abdominal pain, diarrhea, vomiting. And we do know that previously we've reported about cases of food poisoning in schools across the country, including a cholera outbreak in certain schools as well. Is the Ministry of Health concerned about public health across schools in the country?
Yes, Lillian, the Ministry of Health, we are very much concerned. And allow me to begin by, first of all, passing my condolences to the families that are affected, those who have lost students, and the family of the boarding mistress who passed on last night. I really want to empathize with the family and to empathize with the school administration and community at large at Sacred Heart Mukumu. Having said that, yes, as a ministry, we are concerned and very concerned, and there's something that we are doing about it. And when this came to our attention previously, we have managed the cases that have been there. You remember very well the case of Upper Hill Secondary School that had a similar case which we contained and managed within the school, and it was a food poisoning case. And after that, immediately we issued guidelines, and I wrote to my counterpart, the CS of Education, and we issued guidelines on how schools should go about in terms of hygiene, sanitation, and handling of food. In this particular case, we received a call from the school on the 31st of March, and we responded, and up to date, my teams are still on the ground at Kakamega Mukumu Girls. Yeah.
Right. And now the press release from the Ministry of Health that we have is not conclusive. And in quote, for instance, the header reads that it is an unknown disease, and also goes on to read, quote unquote, that the ministry wishes to inform the public that the disease is likely to be a mixture of E. coli and Salmonella typhi. So what exactly is ailing the affected? Because the press release we have today, Waziri, is not conclusive. It says unknown disease, and it says that the disease is likely to be.
Thank you, Lillian. And rightfully put, the press release was put together by the technical people within my ministry, including the most Dr. Kuria and our DG, Dr. Amoth. And that is after going through all the tests that they have done. So far, what they have been able to isolate is the microorganisms that they are talking about. That is the Escherichia coli and the Salmonella typhi. And those are common microorganisms that present themselves mostly in human fecal discharge. So that is so far what we have been able to pick from the samples. However, at the rate at which we have had the fatal incidences, we are concerned. And that is why we are saying inconclusive, because now the experts have not been able to put a finger on a specific disease and say exactly this is it. You know, in normal circumstances, Escherichia coli, Salmonella typhi should be easy to manage. Yeah.
Now, and in terms of the 4 deaths reported so far, of the 2 autopsy reports that we have, they show that these patients died and were exhibiting multiple organ failure. They had acute kidney and liver failure. And we do know that the Ministry of Health has collected samples from Butere and Mukumu as well. But are further tests being carried out to ascertain exactly what the active element that is presenting itself is?
Yes, tests are ongoing. So far, the tests that have been done, they were done at the county referral hospitals. Some tests were sent to Kemri CDC in Kisumu. Other tests were done here in Nairobi at the National Public Health Reference Laboratory. We have had even samples taken to the government chemist. And the reason why we are saying it is unknown is because we feel that probably there's something else that we are not able to catch. And we have given ourselves timeline. This morning, fresh samples were collected from the student who is admitted at Kenyatta University Referral Hospital. And samples this morning again have been picked from the the boarding mistress who passed on, so that we just do further analysis. And we are also in touch with the WHO, the country representative who is here in Kenya, and we are saying that most likely, if we still get the same results within our laboratory, it would mean that then we seek assistance from other laboratories outside Kenya.
And Waziri, I'll take you back to when you paid a visit to the students that from Mukumu that were admitted in hospital, that had taken ill after being exposed to whatever this is, as well as your visit to the school. What were you able to tell from that visit? Could this be in the water? Could it be in the food storage, perhaps the food itself?
Lillian, we did a physical inspection of the whole school. And since we were suspecting the food, we started with the kitchen. So we went and looked at the food that had the leftover food that was there, and samples were picked from there. We also went and visited their store for cereals, that is for maize, beans, and rice, and picked samples. As well, we were just able to observe, like, what is the condition, how does it look like, and all that. We actually went up to the stream where the school fetches its water from. And we looked at the water source, that is the stream, the reservoir tank that is there. We did all that, and samples were taken. And all of them, they have given us results of having microorganisms of Escherichia coli. You know, most experts were expecting that maybe from the cereals would be able to derive something like aflatoxin or like metal in them, but nothing of that sort has been detected so far. All of it is Escherichia coli and Salmonella typhi, which is very consistent with the human fecal discharge. And our suspicion could be because of the rains, there could have been a sewage discharge that mixed with the water, and probably could be exacerbated by the food handlers within the school.
Right, and of concern is the fact that most of these cases are being presented to hospital when they're acute, like the case of the mistress yesterday, who even presented symptoms of bleeding, you know, from her private parts. And so the question is, 2 weeks of investigation by the Ministry of Health. Has the Ministry of Health been lax in investigating this issue? Could this be a case of a little too late? 2 weeks later, we still don't know what's happening, and deaths continue to be reported, Waziri.
Lillian, the day I visited the school, we got to learn that the cases began just before half-term. And the students were let to go on half-term. And in fact, one of the girls who passed on from home. She never came back to school. What does that mean? That the cases had been there. People had started feeling unwell. However, that was not reported. As the Ministry of Health, remember, we are here at national level. We expect that we then receive reports, and people who need assistance are able to reach to us. Besides that, delivery of service and healthcare is a county function. And therefore, it is expected that the nearest county should be able to handle unless it gets out of hand. That's when we come in to give policy and to give guidelines. And I think it would also speak to Kenyans in general in terms of our health-seeking behavior. Most of the time, people tend to wait and maybe take painkillers, over-the-counter medicine, just trying to observe themselves before they get to hospital. Until they feel that they are seriously ill, that is when they get to hospital. So our culture as Kenyans needs to change in terms of health-seeking behavior, that those things that you may feel, you just need to get to a health provider and get checked out.
Talking about one of the students that you're saying died at home, in terms of Butere and Mukumu, these schools were closed indefinitely when these cases started being reported. And for the students that were not presenting symptoms, they were sent home. And yet, even with the Ministry of Health's press release, we know that this disease is highly contagious, easily spreads from person to person. Wouldn't it have been more ideal to treat all the students as ill? These students are back mingling with the general public, and we're seeing, you know, cases still being reported into hospital, even for the students that are back at home. What is the protocol in terms of the Ministry of Health and indeed the Ministry of Education as regards who makes the call for these schools to be closed?
Lillian, you're right in whatever you're pointing out. From the experts within the ministry, we did not need to close the school. We needed to have managed these cases within the school so that then we do not transfer whatever the case is to the community at large. However, Kenyans also, our habit, we are very sensational about certain matters. Actually, the school was first closed by the first respondents who went there, political class. And they closed the school. The principal was just following behind. By the time the Ministry of Health is being contacted for instructions and guidelines, the school had already been closed. But in an ideal circumstances, and Ministry of Health has issued instructions and guidelines to the Ministry of Health, they're supposed to call for assistance within the school so that the students are confined within the school, then it is managed. But with the reporting that is going on, Lillian, and I want to call out to your fellow news journalists, that when it comes to life, we don't need to sensationalize anything. Let us report facts so that then a decision is able to be taken.
And as anxiety continues across the country for parents across the country whose children are in school, what assurance can you give them that their children in boarding schools across the country are safe from this unknown disease that the Ministry of Health is yet to conclusively tell us what it is, what is causing it?
Lillian, I would like to step in the shoes of a parent because I am one. It is very difficult from where I sit to convince a parent so far that something is being done. But indeed, as a ministry, we have taken action. And remember, this is a school. So we are working together with the Ministry of Education in terms of having a whole government approach. I have mentioned that it was a water issue. We are also working with the Ministry of Water to be able to take care of the water sources. We have issued general guidelines in terms of management of schools and what they need to do. And for the specifically parents of the students in these schools, we have issued what they need to look out for. We have also given emergency lines. Those are public health emergency lines that are manned 24 hours. In case a parent has a child who feels any of those symptoms, they should feel free to call the emergency public health line so that they are given instructions and assisted on the way forward.
Health Cabinet Secretary Susan Nakumicha, many thanks for your time tonight. We're taking a break right here on Friday night. We're back with more. Stay with us.